Welcome to Slaughterhouse Stories. I hope you enjoy the story I have for you tonight. Endless nightmare. I was walking home one day from school as usual, but when I reached my neighborhood, nothing was right. 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 Nothing was where it should be. I was caught in a maze, an endless maze in my own neighborhood. I was there for days, yet no one was there. The shadows, the darkness kept growing, coming closer, consuming. I awoke from this dream, no, this nightmare, all the time. I woke last time, shrouded by darkness, gazing at the vague outline of my room. I didn't want to close my eyes. I didn't want to sleep, in fear that the nightmare would return. However, I did sleep, and the nightmare did return, like it always does. This has been happening for so long, I don't remember when it started. I do remember, however, that I was young. I was in elementary school, 3rd grade I think, back when I was able to return home. But the maze kept getting more complicated. When it started that I couldn't return home, I could at least get out of the maze. That changed as well though. I couldn't get out the way I entered, but there was another exit. The road leading into my neighborhood is shaped like a U, although that changed as well, and I couldn't leave. For a brief period of time after that, 1 or 2 weeks, I could return home. But it was pointless, because there was nothing inside. It was just empty. One thing I noticed about this dream is that the more complicated the maze became, the more the darkness grew. And the more the darkness grew, I would feel a sense of dread and despair, growing stronger and stronger. As this went on, I also got a feeling like something was slowly creeping up on me. Now let me tell you about the last time I had this dream. It started like it always does, with me walking home. But strangely enough, I could find my way home. I opened the door, and inside everything was where it should be, which I found very strange. I explored my home, going into every room, with a few irregularities here and there, the number of which grew as I kept roaming. I eventually came across a door to the basement, which I found really strange, since there isn't a basement in my house. I descended down into the basement, and when I got there, it was empty. The only peculiar thing was that the walls were dark red, instead of the usual concrete gray that you see. It started to feel like something was following me. This both annoyed me and creeped me out. I got out of the basement and I walked around a bit more, until I came across a staircase. I found this odd as well, since there isn't a 2nd floor in my house. I decided to go up the stairs, and as I reached the top of the stairs, it felt like there was something right behind me. I turned around, and to my relief, there was nothing there. I checked all the rooms upstairs, and much like the basement, there was nothing in them. I went back downstairs, and after deciding I had enough, and that I was really creeped out, I went to the front door. I opened the door, and as I stepped outside, I woke up. I've been up for a few days now. I don't want to know what would happen if I fall asleep again. I don't want to be caught in that nightmare again. Stupidly though, I got up and took sleeping pills. It's 3 in the morning, and my eyelids are feeling heavy, closing every now and then. My head is thrown downwards, only for me to rise it back up again, until my eyes stayed shut, and my head is thrown down along with my body. I'm walking home from school, and I've reached my neighborhood. I'm lost and confused, not knowing where I am in the neighborhood. As I walk through my neighborhood, I eventually find my house. I opened the door and walked in. As I walked in, everything was where it should be. Nothing was out of place. I went down the hallway leading to my bedroom, and as I went to open the door, I found myself staring down the hallway. I tried a few more times, but in vain. I decided to go into my mom's office, which is right next to my room. I turned on the lights, and again nothing was out of place. I walked over to the door to the bathroom, and I opened it. Inside, the floor was drenched in blood. And on the toilet seat was a decapitated head. I exited the room. My stomach was feeling sick. After that, I tried going into my dad's office, but it was locked, so I went to my parents' bedroom. On the way, I noticed blood splattered throughout the living room. I entered my parents' bedroom, and I walked over to their bed. I looked over and saw 2 corpses in the bed. I turned around and headed to the door when I saw 2 more corpses. They were moving, crawling towards me. I ran out and slammed the door behind me. I headed towards the living room again. As I got back to the living room, I went to get the keys to my dad's office, since I know where they are. Before I went back to my dad's office, I went to try and get into my room again. I reached to open the door, and it actually opened this time. Inside, there were limbs scattered everywhere, and there was a skull in the bed. I closed the door and headed to my dad's office. I opened the door and slammed it shut right after. Inside there was a decaying corpse hanging from a noose. The smell of ptomaine came through from the other side. I ran to the door. I opened the door and walked outside. As soon as I closed the door behind me, the darkness had encompassed everything. I stared into the void for 2 minutes, and then I saw movement. I couldn't see what it was, but I could see movement, and it appeared to come towards me. I turned to open the door behind me, but it wouldn't move. I turned it back around to make a run for it, and as I did, I felt claws tearing at my skin, slashing downwards, shredding my flesh. I woke up shrouded by darkness, looking at the vague outline from my room. I looked over to check the time. The light from my clock seemed dimmer than usual. It was 4 a.m. I put my hand to my chest, and I felt a warm liquid flowing from it. That's it for tonight's story. But before we end things, check out the Slaughterhouse Stories podcast. Available at all your favorite podcast sites. So download and subscribe. Be a listener, not a victim. And as always, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed tonight's story, please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay spooky.